Waiver wire winners heading into week 3. These are suggestions to add to your fantasy football roster that are currently being rostered in under 50% of Fantrax fantasy football leagues. What I'm liking about CJ Stroud is his volume through the air. The Texans are letting him air it out. He threw the ball 44 times week 1, 47 times in week 2. In week 2, he went 30 for 47 with 384 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins looked great. Tank Dell stepped up. Robert Woods has been reliable. He has other pieces like Dalton Schultz and John Mechie who could step up as well. Jerome Ford is going to be the hot ad of the week with the significant Nick Chubb injury. Prayers up to him. That was awful to see. Jerome Ford, 16 for 106 in week 2. That's 6.63 yards per carry. He caught 3 of his 4 targets as well for 25 yards. Roschon Johnson, the rookie, was up to 42% of the snaps in week 2. In week 1, he scored a rushing touchdown and caught 6 passes. He went 4 for 32, which is 8 yards per carry, and 2 catches in week 2. I think he can take over by the end of the year. We have to also mention Matt Breida because Saquon Barkley is set to miss a few weeks with his ankle injury. I also think you should be stashing Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt. A lot of people will say that they're washed or they're inefficient. I guarantee you, if they get signed, they are going to touch the football. It's as straightforward as that, especially with these injuries that continuously pop up for the running back position. Josh Reynolds finished with 80 receiving yards in week 1. In week 2, he caught 5 balls for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's clear that he is the wide receiver 2 while Jameson Williams is suspended, and he's had a previous connection back in LA with Jared Goff. Rookie Tank Dell jumped from 48% of the snaps in week 1 to 79% of the snaps in week 2. He caught 7 balls on a team-high 10 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown. CJ Stroud has previously vouched for this guy during the draft process. Jaden Reed was a second-round selection in this year's NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers. He had 5 targets in week 1. In week 2, he had 8 targets. He caught 4 of them, with 2 of those 4 catches being touchdowns. I feel like Tutu Atwell has been in the shadow of record breaker Puka Nacua. He's had 17 targets through 2 games. He had 119 receiving yards in week 1, 77 in week 2. He's had 15-plus fantasy points in both weeks. He played 94% of the snaps in week 2. Devontae Parker missed week 1, but he led New England in catches and receiving yards, going 6 for 57 on 8 targets. He played all of the snaps in week 2. 17.8 and then 15.75 yards per reception shows the upside that Rashid Shaheed has. He finished with 89 receiving yards week 1, 63 in week 2. I think he's a flex with some upside if you're chasing a matchup. I'm not sure if he qualifies for the roster percentage for this video, but check to see if Adam Thielen is on waivers. He caught 7 of 9 targets in week 2. For the tight end position, Hunter Henry has been the tight end 1 and then the tight end 2 across 2 weeks of fantasy football. He finished with 16-plus fantasy points in both of those games. 13 targets across 2 weeks with both games above 50 receiving yards. He scored a touchdown in both games as well. He played 92% of the snaps in week 2. I'm surprised by it because of the significant injury last year, but Zach Ertz, 18 targets across the first 2 games with 2 top 12 fantasy performances for the tight end position. 6 catches in back-to-back weeks. He had 56 receiving yards in week 2. Be sure you are following the Fantrax socials for consistent fantasy football content to help you win those ships.